What is up, everybody? The Oracle at Mushin here. I'm going to be doing a self-respect reading today, but right out of the gate, I just want to say to like this channel. As you may have noticed now, I've moved to Spiritual Phoenix Studios channel, which is the main heading of my business. It's a little bit easier to get all of my videos under one roof, and I apologize for any inconvenience. So jumping right into this, the Oracle card of today is Ascended Masters. And as you can see, there's this light blue border there, which is kind of about throat chakra communication. There's this owl there, and it's the snowy owl, which very much blends into its surroundings. And I think that that's one of the things about kind of our guides and things like that in general. They're so present in our lives that sometimes we don't see them. And then the other element of it with the owl is this acute sense of vision that can see regardless of the circumstances, and they can pick up small movements in dark or even in the snow, in this case for the snowy owl. So it can pick up things that might not be visible to the rest of the spectrum. The next element of this card is this diffused purple, which is this kind of white light being instilled in all of spirituality. Then there's this whole circle concept, which is just showing the interconnectedness of all of reality and interconnectedness of us with guides and ascended masters. And then there's this element here of the full moon, and then the dark moon, as some call it, or new moon, as it's been called more as of late. And to me, that just shows that the ascended masters are there with us, regardless of where we're at in our process. It's just a matter of coming to the rune or the sigil for today. Just a matter of us listening and really tapping in and connecting with the messages that they're transmitting to us. In order to do that, we have to keep our signal clear by doing the inner work to kind of process what's going on emotionally, allow ourselves to have our emotions, not suppress them. Listening is a lot more complex process than I think many of us give credit to. You can hear what people are saying, but until you really begin to listen, which is to me like digest the verbs and the verbiage that they're using and comprehend and begin to understand and apply those things to your life, you could hear everything, but it'd be completely meaningless. So we have this rose quartz pendant that I made. I'm really getting a lot better at coming up with this fluid presentation. And one of the things is you can find people that can do the very traditional and structured presentation of wire wrapping, which is beautiful, but you might be less likely to find this organic fluid style of wire wrapping. And it's taken me a while to refine that. So I've added an additional card that I'm going to be doing, which is the Rumi Oracle. And this one says, dive into the boiling sea of passion and all grief will run from you. And I think that this is really important to remember, that the more that we chase what we are, I shouldn't say chase, but the more that we engage in what we are passionate about and delve into our dreams and into accomplishing what we want in our life, the harder it is to get consumed by depression and all of this kind of stuff. And I know that that's true in my own personal experience, because the more that I pursue this business, the more that I delve into my gifts, the more that I develop myself spiritually, the more that I really further ingrain this practice in my life, the less grief or hardship seems to stay present. So we're going to be moving now into the self-respect reading, and I'm going to shuffle these cards real quick. And as I do, I'm going to use this time to tell you to check out the podcast version of this or the video version of this, depending upon how you are receiving it now. And leave a review on iTunes if you can. Like us on YouTube if you so desire. Check out my other podcast, the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast. If you're on YouTube, it's on the same channel now, which makes it much easier. Hindsight's 2020. And I'm going to be updating the ways that you can donate to this if you like, but you can donate. And then also, you can book your own private reading, which will be a lot more in detail than these readings. So, first off, for your self-respect card, why don't you prioritize your needs? So, this is interesting. It's the Star card. And the reason you don't prioritize your needs is because you're kind of so busy chasing your purpose at times that you forget part of your purpose is yourself. Or you're so caught looking towards the stars for your answers, you forget to create your own answers. I really like the artwork on this card a lot because it has this long winding road, but this person is focused on the beauty of the divinity. And I think that might be something to really consider about destiny sometimes, that at times we might become so enamored with the guidance. It's interesting how this ties into Ascended Masters, that we forget that part of it is just working on our own path at times. And some of the answers have to come from ourselves. So we have to be willing to receive, but we also have to be willing to do the footwork. So part of the reason we don't prioritize our needs is we're putting everything on these forces outside of us to do it for us, and not putting faith in them where we should. So this is actually really true to myself, and it's interesting how this kind of ties into where I'm at in life, because I'm so busy pushing forward that at times I forget to kind of relax, recharge, and revitalize. And it goes back to putting faith in a higher power to kind of continue this stuff on and allow me to rest. So why don't we prioritize our needs? We're not listening to the messages of our Ascended Masters, and we're almost being consumed by passion to a point of self-destruction. The other opposing end of that would be we're looking to the stars for our passion and not taking action on creating it. So how can you learn to respect yourself and establish self-worth? And what comes up is the Six of Drums. To me, this speaks to engaging in play more. Sometimes some of us take life so seriously that we forget to have fun, that we forget to take moments to rest, like is displayed there, and we forget to kind of tap into our youthfulness overall. And I think that that's something that all of us can really benefit from. Granted, there is the other end of the spectrum where we become so obsessed with that we can't move forward, but most self-respect issues stem from taking ourselves way too seriously and not lightening up. The green in that card speaks to heart chakra, which is really about tapping into our heart more and honoring our own needs. There's this concept of really suppressing our own wants and desires, which is juxtaposed by this concept in the New Age community of following every desire, sometimes to our own peril. And I think, again, then it becomes this concept of the middle ground. And even if you look at the Star card, there's the two ends of the spectrum are the chasm, and the middle path, quite literally, is the road. So it's finding that center point, which is something I talk about almost to the point of being monotonous. The other element of how can you learn to respect your self-worth is this light blue here. Light blue is relative to the throat chakra, and that's about communicating your own needs, not only to other people, but to yourself, and then listening, like is suggested in the sigil, and dialing into it, and then also becoming passionate about honoring yourself in a respectful way, and knowing when you're maybe falling into some of the more destructive elements of your character, or becoming self-indulgent, And that kind of can be filtered through reaching out to your guides, talking to your ascended masters, and really centering yourself more so. Now, how can you be more authentic? It's so funny how much I talked about balance and to have this is the Chariot card in traditional tarot. And although it talks about travel, to me the card really speaks of um, balance also, because there's these on the traditional card there's these two sphinxes which are represented by the white and the black horse here, um, and their colors are they're like alternating, just like the horses are. So this is kind of about being more authentic, is about finding that center point yet again between the light and the dark and honoring that. Again, there's this concept of, especially in New Age circles, becoming hyper vigilant about the positive side of life and completely ignoring the darker elements of our character. Or I shouldn't even say ignoring, but um, maybe labeling intrinsic human characteristics as even dark or negative when really they're just parts of psyche overall, and it's about becoming in better relationship with them. Sexuality is an area that some people have really demonized in ways, and this is just an example, but learning to honor your own desires in that area, or learning to make peace with your past and not viewing yourself so much as a bad person because of some choices you've made, but allowing yourself that experience as a learning experience. I saw a quote recently, and it talked about how making mistakes is an essential part of the universe, and it's this when we won't allow ourselves to make mistakes, we're denying the universe kind of its own process. So how you can be more authentic is get in touch with some of the elements that you're suppressing in yourself, for one. uh, Maybe curbing back some of your enthusiasm about certain elements of your character that you over glorify in another sense. And then also allowing yourself to make mistakes. There was a point last year where I was working a job and I had become so hyper vigilant to avoid making any mistakes that I had to, at one point, initially seek to make mistakes just to free myself up of the neurotic tendencies associated with it. And I think that consciously seeking to make small mistakes, and I'm not talking about big ones. For example, this job was working in a retail store, so I would intentionally maybe disarray shelves. And I know you're thinking, wow, dude, that's so rebellious. Sarcasm. But like just that little act of defiance was liberating in a big way. And I'm not saying to do things that put your I'm not saying to do things that put you at risk, but you can allow yourself to make some mistakes. And then finally, it's interesting yet again that we have the Ascended Masters and listening, because here is a message from your guides. And you have the Two of Stones coming up, which this card is all about healing, as you can see. This red-haired woman, or orange-haired woman, orangish red. We'll tie into that first. So if you see it as red, that would be more so root chakra. I see it more as orange, which is sacral chakra. But either way, you can kind of view it as material reality creating this space to kind of heal you, whether it's sexual healing, which I mean not in so much the way of having intimate relationships, but maybe redefining what sex as a concept means to you, or with yourself within that area. And then also healing yourself through creating art into reality. And I think that one of the things that I need to explain about art in general, art doesn't have to be creating jewelry, it doesn't have to be painting, it doesn't have to be poetry, it doesn't have to be writing, it doesn't have to be any of these common concepts of art. Art can be learning to live your life in what Alan Watts called like the dance, and learning the various give and take of life. Like living life in a meaningful way is an art form of itself. And to me, this speaks so much more to that The green in the card, again, is about the heart chakra, and it's kind of diffused with this blue tone, which again speaks to the throat chakra, which is learning to speak your heart, learning to hear your heart. And I would also say that there's kind of the alchemical wedding in this card as well, which is the unification of both your feminine and masculine energy in a meaningful way. And it's interesting, the layout of this card too, because one of the things that I've done on my own journey is kind of begin to overemphasize the male energy or the fire energy of my personality. And somebody suggested that I tap more into the feminine energy. So to me, this kind of speaks of needing to slow down and reach a more receptive space in my life. And I think that the message overall for people is you can restore your self-respect if you're on this journey already. Um, like you're already beginning to do that. Give yourself some more faith. Begin to listen for more signs. Open your mind up to the message of your guides. Even the rose quartz really is about tapping into your heart, which was unintentional because obviously I don't know what cards are going to come up. One of the things that I'll say about the rose quartz too is it's pink. In some circles, pink is associated with the like a secondary color of the heart chakra, which is the emotional heart. So that's about like healing your emotional heart. The Rumi Oracle card is really saying dive into your passions as a way of regaining your self-respect, because a lot of us shut off what's meaningful to us because of how we perceive other people judging us or viewing us because of it. And when we do that, there's a big energetic repercussion to us that's damaging. And then again, you don't prioritize your needs first off because you're focusing too much on your purpose and not enough on your vessel, or you also are focusing too much on your vessel and not enough on your purpose. You need to kind of distinguish where you fall in that way of thinking. How can you learn to respect yourself and find self-worth? Begin to play more, tap into more play. And if you're playing in a way that's destructive, maybe find more authentic ways of playing. And by destructive play, I would say obsessively playing, or escaping through substances or through various actions that we might find fun but are ultimately like spiritually empty and devoid of any actual substance. The next thing, how can you be authentic? You got to integrate all the various facets of your personality: light, dark, pleasant, unpleasant, and ride the lightning as there's all this storm in the card. You got to run into the storm of your life in some capacity and face it head on, almost like this is a weird reference in Forrest Gump when Lieutenant Dan sails into the storm or whatever, or I think it's Lieutenant Dan. It's been a while since I've seen that. It's just a weird thing that surfaced to my mind. And the overall message, let yourself heal, kind of unify the various sexual energies in your personality, the masculine and the feminine. And maybe you need to study that more because it's not so much about attraction so much as it is about what those energies represent. And learn to speak your heart and listen to your heart. I really hope that this reading helped somebody. As I said, this will be on Spiritual Phoenix Studios YouTube. I'm no longer going to be using the Oracle at Mushin YouTube. I'm going to be shutting that one down and focusing all my energy on one front. There will be new options coming up for donating, and I'll even eventually have some kind of rewards program that's associated with my podcast, these videos, and everything I'm doing, so you get something back for your money. Love and light, people. I hope you have a blessed day. Tap into that self-respect and enjoy your weekend. Peace.